Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hi. So, allow yourselves to connect. And in our connecting, realize that part of this is a journey back to our beginnings, and that is going to take us to our destiny. So, the ancient civilizations of Sumeria, Babylonia, and the indigenous people throughout the world, Tibet, Nepal, India, Bolivia, Peru, all through the American desert southwest, the Aboriginals in Australia, then Africa, and beyond, all have their story of creation. Each story is different, but the through line is that we are the product of some kind of intervention 200,000 years ago, where the story of the creation of the human body, and they say, we are the product of an intentional creation. And all of them, they always say they. Not he, not she, but they, indicating there was a group of some kind that made the first human body. That's not the end, because you see, the first ones didn't work, the second ones didn't work, and they kept on working with it so that they could produce a body that could sustain the power of light, the power of soul in a physical form. And as I said, it took multiple attempts and multiple formulas of DNA to find the right match for the genetic blueprint that could hold the power of the soul in physical form. The story goes on, but we'll use this as a starting point. And then again, I can't do it. I just have to add this piece. You see, they made it so perfect that their own kind couldn't handle it, because as they made us, we were a challenge to them. So they dumbed us down just a little. And they kind of scrambled our DNA. And then here we are, the product of this hybridization. So when we begin to embrace the science that tells us we're something else, we can let go of the story of evolution that no longer serves us. Now, our environments, external, emotional, psychological, nutritional, you can see that all of these things are subject to change. And because they are, they do. So we're not locked in. We are not defined by our past, unless, of course, we choose to. And we're not defined by our genetics, unless, of course, again, we choose to. So you see, it's only when the technology led us to this point that we could look into the DNA and see we're not what we have been told. This means we have the consciousness to embrace the implications. So let's go to this body I've been talking about. There's two main parts I want to cover here today. One is the brain. So we've been told we have four brain states. We have delta, theta, alpha, and beta. That's it. Well, there were some scientists who got curious and said, I wonder if that really is the truth. So they went to some people to see if they could discover more. And they went to the Tibetan meditators. And they said, okay, here's what we have, here's what we are. Tell us, show us. Is there anything different? And the Tibetan meditator said, well, actually, if we go into a particular meditation, we come up with something else. So they said, okay, show us. We'll record it. We'll have it on all these different instruments. And sure enough, they took the brain wave higher than was ever expected. And that was, they took it all the way to 80, from 30 to 80. So this blew them away. And they said, okay, we have to get this recorded. We have to get this made sure that it's a fact. And the Tibetan said, no worry, but, while we're here and we're doing this, we can go to another meditation and we'll go even farther than this. And so sure enough, they did. So they went from 80 to 100. And they named all of this gamma. So needless to say, the scientists are rocking and reeling and not believing what's happening, but they said, okay, well, thank you so much. That's it. And they said, well, wait a minute, because that's not really it. We can go into another meditation and take it even farther. And so they did. They went into another meditation and they took it from 100 to 200. And they call this a labda. So needless to say, this really shook up the scientists, knowing that it was going to completely shake up the scientific world that had us so locked in. And they said, okay, thank you so much. We're on our way in this. Wait just a moment. Because, you see, we can go into another meditation at the other end. And so they did. And it was recorded that it went below 0 to 1. So here they went to these people now, who demonstrated it can be done. And the point is that this final epsilon state revealed the fact that what we have been told about our brains is not the limitation. I could have said it's not the truth and would have been the same thing. So I'm presenting this to you so that when you hear somebody suggest that you use meditation, there's a lot there for us to discover. So, invitation, which is, in essence, it is allowing us access to different bodies of information out there, different fields, and different places within the fields, as other life forms do. And please do allow this connection to enter into your awareness. You see, this is how we can communicate with other forms of life. Aliens. Because you see, they're here. Okay, that's enough to rattle your brains. For the brain. But you see, now I want to go to the other place, and that is the heart. We have often heard repeatedly over the years that we need to make a connection with our heart. Oh, by the way, when you went to school, it's probably still in the books because I think it's still being taught. The definition of life. Life is a behavior pattern that chemical systems exhibit when they reach a certain level of complexity. Does that sound like you? And you see, we have, our parents were, and our children are still being taught that's who we are. Everything exists and it has energy. And that's because everything that exists is energy. All energy contains information which creates matter in the physical universe. Our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs create our physical reality literally. What we call mind, consciousness, or our intentions are really manifestations of information. So when we come down to it, we see we're energetic beings by nature. And that the soul, or consciousness, giving awareness to the body, is composed of energy which contains an innate intelligence. Okay, we've also been taught it's the head that does it all. The heart, it's a pump. But you see, things are happening and discoveries are being made that prove that's not so. Because in reality it's being found that the heart is the primary generator of information energy. It's the communication device for the higher self which delivers messages to us through emotion. And you know, it does this at such a rate, it's faster than the speed of light, and it creates this aura around us that actually is us as we see ourselves. So, the heart and the brain were actually meant to work together. And in a magical symphony of resonance and vibration, the heart bringing in the higher knowledge of the soul, while the brain decodes and translates this knowledge to interact with the physical world. The heart thinks, cells remember, and both these processes are related to that yet mysterious, extremely powerful, but very subtle energy with properties known as consciousness. And it is also unlike any other known force. So, heart-brain research is encouraging. It encourages Western world cultures to apply subconscious deep intuition, to feel and act more from the heart, especially for males. And I'm leaving it on your own for you to figure that one out. Okay, so your body understands heart-brain coordination, and guess how it understands it? As healing, as love. So the cells in our body know, and the cells in our body know when our heart and brain are working together to pick up on what's going on out there, what's going on in here, and give us an accurate assessment so that we can make proper decisions. So, consider this as a transformational tool that you can begin to use, and it also is a revolution of consciousness. So we're getting closer to our destiny. But I didn't want to read you this story. I thought it was so inspiring and revealing at the same time. And it has to do with heart transplants. You see, the doctors and the ones who survive it, they're starting to realize some fascinating accounts have been given to doctors and patients through the successful transplants. Their patients are known to undergo personality shifts, changes in habit, preferences, identities, and have new memories. Of course, when this first started happening, the scientists said, that's just coincidence. Which, isn't that pretty much what we've been given all along? Okay, so then there was an amazing case study that blew this all to pieces. And here we go. There was an 8-year-old girl who received a heart transplant. The transplant appropriately selected a 10-year-old female donor, and it had been successful. However, the 9-year-old recipient kept having a nightmare. And it was the same nightmare time after time, several times a week, in which she was able to graphically recall how things happened to her. So the girl, when she has this nightmare, sees herself running in the woods away from a man chasing her. Eventually, the man catches up to her after she trips and falls, and she is able to graphically recall how the man proceeded to murder her. And because of the graphic description, her mother took her to a psychiatrist. You got to help my girl. She's having real problems here. And he said, okay. Well, he had her come in, repeat it all. They took it all down. And so they said, okay, we're going to notify the police. So it turned out that when all this was brought forward to the police, they brought in a fellow that, I forget, what do they call him? A forensic artist, and was able, from what the girl told him he looked like, she made a picture, the artist did, and then they sent it out. And here's what happened. The girl who was the donor was the one who was murdered. And in the same way as the recipient's nightmare. It was so detailed in location, type of weapon used, clothes worn by the man, his face, how he looked at her with his eyes during the assault, that the police were easily able to identify him. And he lived back in the town where it happened. And when they came forward with all of this information, he confessed. And he went on to say, the accuracy of the recipient's recall was perfect. Well, it's kind of hard to say that's a coincidence, wouldn't you? So that's the point, you see. That's changed the whole picture of what is transferred from one body to another by the heart. The heart enters into another body, it's accepted, and then it begins to reveal what it has as memory from what happened to it before. So, the short and the simple of this is that a heart-based society may well be the key to planetary transformation. It at least can register with you to where you start considering, my heart is not just a pump. It's got a memory And it also has capability of, when it is joined up with the brain, of giving me information that I can use to help me live my life successfully, instead of me just trying to depend on the brain to do it all, when the brain never was designed to do it all in the first place. An awakening of an entire culture and society, if we are open and receptive to it. And if we are, you can begin to then see how our destiny is changing and how it's taking shape, because it's giving us more to work with to help us help ourselves and have a greater appreciation for this body we were in, that was created over 200,000 years ago. And whoever it was gave us a lot of input that we are only now starting to tap into and have show up in our lives. So, allow your brain to relax. Say, chill. I appreciate what you're doing, but chill. Because you can access the emanations and wisdom of the heart and connect it with the brain. So the encouragement is, practice reawakening the symphony of the heart and the brain as it were meant to play into your daily experience. And then find the power of becoming sovereign in your life and become the creator you're intended to be. This is our destiny.